This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well with Heather Dowen, NMD. Spend time with Dr. Heather and her guests for tales of love, adventure, and how to be healthy and happy. Now, here's your host, Dr. Heather Dowen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well. Happy Valentine's Day. Today, we're going to be talking about self-love and self-care in lieu of eating a whole bunch of chocolate and buying overpriced flowers and a card that may say something, but in my opinion, words are cheap, right? And the whole point of this really is that if you don't love yourself and you don't care for yourself, first of all, you can't really love and care for others because your love tank for your energy and your health is depleted. And also, you don't necessarily know what sort of love to demand that others give you. Or not necessarily demand like, love me, but levels of expectation as far as how you deserve to be treated or how you expect to be treated and loved and cared for as a human being walking this planet. And I had an idea for this podcast today, which, the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well is a companion podcast for NaturopathicMD.com, which is a concierge medicine functional medicine wellness site where you can order functional testing and supplementation, and it's the pinnacle of self-care as far as the service that you can do for yourself in taking care of your body. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about self-care for the mind and the heart primarily. And I got this idea because 1 year ago today, I served my ex with divorce papers. And I remember thinking in the morning, like, well, maybe I should wait a day. But the way that things had lined up, I'd had them and he had been sick or I had been traveling and things just hadn't lined up. And, it never really seemed like the right time. And I gave them to him myself, like we were still living in the same house. And I just thought that it was the most loving thing that I could do for myself as far as what I wanted my Valentine's Day of love, which historically is one of my favorite holidays. One, because I love the color red. And two, what's better than a whole day all about love? Nothing, really, right? When it's expressed in meaningful ways and not something that fuels the consumerism of the planet or expectations about what love really looks like. And love looks different to everyone. And so I guess we say in the intro that this is a podcast about love and adventure and healing and health and so this is going to be another story about love and adventure, I guess, with a little bit of heartbreak. So when I was telling my youngest brother about how I was going to do this episode about like 1 year post, deciding that my marriage was over and it being the most loving thing that I could do for myself, he asked, well, what does that mean? And I've really been thinking about how to answer that question because, what I think is loving or what I'm willing to accept as love or how my life is going to move forward obviously doesn't apply to everyone. And all I can do is share my own story, my own experience. And just like last week, I got a lot of feedback from last week's episode where I talked about one of the defining traumas in my life and how I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'm past it. you know, specific choice. I'm not going to, it shall be that which shall not be named. So I got a lot of feedback where, you know, like people in my family or outside sources were talking about, you know, have I done, you know, have I forgiven? And how, you know, like these things, you know, were so hurtful. And I honestly didn't mean any of it like that. It was more my story and my perspective and my journey in deciding like these things that really formed how I've moved forward in the world. But I think it was really a mirror that other people see things in when you're that vulnerable or that honest about your emotions or your experience, that raw. I think that other people can look at it and see how they would react or possibly their roles in it. And honestly, that all just came from a place of processing for me. But I'm not angry or sad. You know, I'm emotional about some of the things, sure, you know, because that's the way that, you know, life works, and I haven't processed through it all entirely. And I'm sure I'm going to cry more in this one. And I can't even blame PMS. But I think that when you're vulnerable, people can see themselves and they can see the truth in it. And I hope that this journey is a little bit similar in a little bit of a different way, because again, this has been a real year and a half of incredible transition for me. And I'm so happy about it that I hope everyone can feel as free and grounded and loved and supported and happy about themselves and where they are in their life as I do every day when I wake up. And it's been a process, and it's not been an easy one necessarily, but I've really, you know, grabbed that bull by both horns and, you know, decided to ride it. And so this is my love story, I guess, and how it turned into more self-love. All right, here we go. I'm drinking my love tea, which I actually really love. So it's my Tulsi tea by Organic India. It's my Tulsi Sweet Rose, which advertises that it is stress relieving and magical. When something says it's magical right on the case, I'm buying it and I'm using it. And I really do love it. And now, as I get older and as I get more set in my practice and my spirituality and my meditative states that I've been embracing, I'm a lot more open to nuance. And rose is a tridoshic herb used in Ayurvedic medicine, which means it balances all the, you know, the three different doshas, which people's bodies are made up of philosophically and physically. And I think that it does open your heart, and that's why roses have been associated with love in a lot of ways, because it is something that is associated with the energetic aspects of. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So almost 10 years ago, I went skiing with a girlfriend of mine, and she set me up on a kind of blind date with someone that she knew. Basically, she was honeypotting me, trying to get me to come to California. And in some ways it worked, in some ways it didn't. So I met this man, and as you may know, I was never expected to ski again. And so while I love skiing, it's one of my favorite things, my knee can get a little bit tired by the end of it. And I had really eaten it at the end of the ski day, and I twisted my knee. And And we'd been skiing through the day, and I thought, he's kind of funny. And it was nice because if you get set up without knowing, you don't have to talk to someone while you ski because you're, going down. It's a solitary sport. You don't have to stop and talk like on the chairlift. And it was chaperoned because she was there too. So, and that probably should have told me something. But, as a doctor, he went and he packed up some snow in a bag to ice my knee at the end of the ski day. And as he leaned down to touch my leg to put the ice on it, it was like this lightning hit me where I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, there you are. There you are. Okay, this is my person. And it was just so shocking. And I guess he felt it too. I mean, initially he said he did, but at this point, who can tell? Everything's been filtered through 10 years of resentment and animosity and changes. So let's assume that he felt the same way in the beginning. He acted like he did. So it was basically love at first, knee injury. And I used to wake up feeling like I was the luckiest girl in the world. And I ended up moving to California. And to be with him, I figured that you might as well move once, like you might as well uplift, have an upheaval of life and give up everything, in those compartmentalized parts of it. My job is awesome. Family is here. Well, what the hell? Let's do it for love. And so we built practice together, and we had a child together. And over, I guess it ended up being about 9-ish years, 6 years of being married. I think the 7-year itch is real. We just grew apart and fell out of love. And, for whatever reason, from both sides, it just ended up not working out. And he checked all the boxes at the time that I had. And I really thought that it was, this is the person, this is my person, this is the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. But guess what? I changed. And in my early 40s, I decided that a, tall, dark, handsome doctor was not for me. And I was going to go out and, be myself. And it was better to be alone than be in the dysfunction that we found ourselves in. I remember sitting on the end of the couch watching him kill the 10 trillionth zombie 3 years in a row, thinking, this is not how I want to spend the next 15 years of my life. Our son was 3 at the time. And even though I spent years, asking about, what is your love language? What do you need me to do? How can I, fix this relationship so our son wakes up in a house with both of his parents? Because I think that that's important. And I subjugated my desires and my feelings in deference to my child, because I wanted him to have a relationship with his father. And if I had left, the first time I really realized that I needed to leave, I was 2 months pregnant. That was an interesting day. And so I stayed until Kieran was old enough to be engaging, I guess, because, babies aren't very engaging to a lot of fathers. And Ryan was very emotionally withdrawn for a long time, for years. And all of that aside, selfishness is an aspect of self-love, because I couldn't love my son if I withered away into a unhappy husk of a person that wasn't doing what fed my soul. And I will make jokes about how I'm a bad mother because I travel places without him, and I enjoy my time. His weeks with his dad are great. I do all kinds of self-care. I go where I want. I, eat what I want. I don't have to worry about it. And the weeks that he's with me are great too. But it is a balance, and I am selfish about that because I'm going to be more than just a mother to this child. And I can't be a very good mother, in my opinion, if I don't feed my own soul and my own heart. And it hurt me. Well, I don't want to use my language that way. I was really hurt for a long time about how could he have fallen out of love with me with what we had. Like, what a shock. Like, I was in love with the idea of what our lives could have been, or I had dreamed would be. And the reality was so different. And so I was in love with an idea, and I was committed to an idea, and it wasn't the reality. And in reality, even if we were, head over heels in love, still, what he wants with his life and where he is going in his life and what he values and what he does is nothing like what I want. And we do still love each other. There's no question about that. We co-parent beautifully. We like each other, more now that we don't live in the same house. And I think we both feel better because the pressure of, what we were supposed to be to one another is gone. And I want a different life. And so I let my life with him go. And we're committed to the health of our son and his well-being. And one of the last times I really asked Ryan to engage and work for our marriage and saving it or fixing it or healing it or moving forward from in a stronger place, I said to him, I don't want our son to grow up thinking that this is what love is. Because I don't want him to have that imprinted, that this like cold thing where we're just, roommates that cohabitate and, move around the orbits of each other is what romantic love is. And I was in therapy for 1.5 years by myself in order to try and make myself fit into this box of what I found my life to be. And guess what? It didn't work, and it had to get blown up, and I'm so happy about it. Anyway, that's my love story as far as how it began and how it ended. And I'm so glad it ended, and I'm so ready for the next, romantic relationship that's going to come into my life. But I've had to shift myself from the patterns of who I was in that relationship and who I was to accept the kind of love that ended up showing up, and ignoring red flags and accepting things that felt like home in some ways from my upbringing, and moving forward out of that into a different person. Like I've done my Badass Butterfly, podcast, and talked about traumas and moving forward. And I really have had an incredible year of change and evolution. And I am not the same person that I was. And, he, to be fair, isn't either. And we didn't click anymore. And that's just fine. And now I'm working on my own being, because I don't want to attract someone who isn't going to love me like I know that I deserve. And how can I show other people how to love me if I'm not loving myself? For years in my relationship with him, I would bring myself, I love flowers. Okay, I love flowers. And I have rose gardens and plant flowers. I think that Emerson that said that the earth laughs in flowers or something like that. And I think that if an alien came down to this planet and saw our flowers, they would think that we lived just in heaven. And so I would buy myself flowers regularly. I have a rule in my house that if I don't have an orchid flowering, I buy myself one because they're better than cut flowers, and I just love them. But I also bought myself a lot of cut roses, because they're just something that makes me happy. And I would buy myself a good organic chocolate bar, because I called it modeling good behavior. And so this is a modeling good behavior podcast for how you can use the 5 love languages to show yourself self-love. I asked my ex-husband at one point what his love languages were, because I was so desperate to try and make myself clear, to help fill up his love tank and show that I was committed to what we were doing. But one person cannot fix a relationship between 2 people. And it is what it is. But he said, "Oh, I don't have one." Okay, he doesn't have one. But if you're familiar with the love languages, there are 5, supposedly, according to a pretty famous book who's from an author that I can't remember his name. Sorry. But they come down to gifts, touch, quality time, acts of service, and words of affirmation. And the way that you show love to other people is the way that you understand it best. And so you can have a completely different way of speaking that doesn't fill up, they call it filling up your partner's love tank. And so, for example, one of my 2 big ones, I think, are touch and gifts. And because I think words of affirmation, not necessarily my thing, because I think talk is cheap, right? But some people need words of affirmation. They need to be told. And that maybe it was just because I didn't get a whole lot of words of affirmation growing up that I recognized, or they just wasn't the way that I've understood, and so I don't speak it. And so if I have someone who needs those words of affirmation, then I need to pay more attention to how I'm interacting with them, and they'll understand that they're being loved by me in that way. Quality time is also very high on my list. Probably better than gifts, actually, because time is something that is way more precious than gifts. but gifts are nice because they're thoughtful. So yeah, I have 3. That's fine. And the other one that I don't really speak very well is service, because most things I can do my damn self, and I don't have a problem with it. And so I think that this was one of Ryan's, actually, was the acts of service, and I didn't understand them. And so by no means do I want to say that this is all his fault. And I hope it doesn't come forward that way, because I think that if I had actually written down, like if I was writing a book and I could edit things rather than just doing like spoken word flow of consciousness, then I wouldn't get in trouble with people getting their feelings hurt or being misunderstood in ways that I'm trying to be understood. I do not blame him at all. I am not sad or mad at all. I'm so glad that we came together for a period of time in our lives. We learned things from each other. We had a family together. And now we're friends and co-parents, and we're free to go on with the rest of our lives. So I guess I need to use that disclaimer. But we had a communication disconnect. And so what I want to talk about for the next little section of this podcast is how you can show yourself love by using these 5 love languages. Because I think that if you break it down that way, you can see that there are little ways that you can show yourself that you love yourself and also model good behavior, so that you can expect the way that you treat yourself is the way that you can expect someone else to treat you. So we'll come back in just a little bit. We'll do a quick message from our sponsors, and we'll come back and talk about the 5 languages of self-love and self-care. Maybe. So we won't do it right now. Let's talk about gifts. Oh, good.
Do you remember the last time you felt healthy and energetic? What would you do if you could regain your health and feel good again? Enjoy spending time with your family? Take a trip. Get back to being active and doing the things that you love. NaturopathiCMD can help because we practice natural, functional, logical medicine. Have you ever cut yourself and taken a prescription to stop the bleeding, but the cut stayed open? No, because your body can heal itself. Cuts are usually easy to heal, but chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and digestive problems need the expert support we can provide. Are you ready to take action and get your life back? Sign up for one of our elite concierge programs today.
Are you tired of taking massive rips off your water bong and almost hacking up a lung? Dr. Wild has developed an all-natural, antioxidant water pipe additive designed to smooth smoke and add titillating flavor. Add 30 to 90 drops of our 100% natural, antioxidant-rich, essential oil-powered pipe potions to the water in your bong and smoke smarter. We have 6 sexy flavors to choose from. Some are soft and sweet, and others are powerfully pungent. We like to think of them as flavors with benefits. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram to learn more about our pipe girls.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well. I'm Dr. Heather Dowan, and I'm telling a story of love and adventure and self-care on this Valentine's Day in 2020. So we left off with the love languages section. So we're going to talk about gifts, because Valentine's Day is often a day where you get gifts as far as being representative of love. And so I am wearing all of my jewels, my favorite jewels today. And I think it's funny because so many of them are saved for a rainy day, right? Like, or a special occasion. And I broke them out today because I guess it is a little bit of a special occasion. It is a holiday after all, but you know, wearing them more is going to make me feel better, I think, or help support me in remembering where they came from and what they mean, and that they're beautiful things that I appreciate and I'm grateful for. One of my girlfriends this morning texted me Happy Valentine's Day, and I replied and I asked her what she was doing. And she said she picked up it. She's a flight attendant. She picked up an extra trip because the next diamonds she gets, she's going to buy for herself. And I loved that. And I told her that I was going to use it because the last relationship that she was in was just brutalizing. But she just makes gifts from it, right? But she's going to buy her own damn gifts now because she doesn't have to put up with. She's putting a boundary as far as like what she's, you know, going to be treated like, what she expects from love, and that these beautiful, expensive gifts aren't the only thing, you know, that matters. And she'll buy her own. And so, you know, I think as you know, professional women, and you know, gifts are great because it's the thought behind them. And I think that buying yourself little things, they don't have to be big things like diamonds, they could be little, or, you know, I'm sending myself on a really amazing trip, and I'll tell you about it next time. But that was one of my self-love gifts. You can get craft supplies or beautiful things. I bought myself silk pillowcases on Amazon because they're so luxurious and they're so nice, and they're $20. You know, like, it's such a nice thing that makes life just a little bit better. So next one, touch. I got myself a massage yesterday. I do the massage envy because it's easy. And it was such an amazing experience because I've been really sore from doing a lot of yoga. So I had a big shift about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know where it came from. I guess my midlife crisis ended. We can hope. We can only hope. And I just felt like I lost 3,000 pounds of depression and self-sabotage and just sloth and feeling like I was trudging through life. And it happens, that happens. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to get crazy with yourself about it. It was also a hibernating time through the winter for me, I guess. But I felt like such an incredible shift. And I know that I need to, yoga is one of my things. It's one of those service things that I need to do for myself. But it also can be touch, because touch is physical as far as the movement and the health aspects of it, and the quality time I'm giving myself. It's got everything, the gift of buying myself, you know, these things will have every little, you know, some of the best ones that you could do for yourself show you all, like, they're all the love languages in one. And I guess yoga is like that, right? So it's words of affirmation as you know, set your intention at the beginning of the practice. It's service to yourself and your body. It's quality time for the same thing. It's touch because it's the movement. And it's a gift because you bought it for yourself. It's amazing. Yoga, perfect thing. God, I love it. Anyway, I was doing a lot of yoga, and I did Wednesday. I did back-to-back class. I did a yin class following a vinyasa flow class, and they were both hot or warm-ish. And afterwards, I just felt so amazing. I had a emotional release in the first flow class where I was at one point crying, but I was sweating so heavily no one could tell. Like, not that it matters, but it's not the first time I'll cry in a yoga class, and it won't be the last. But it was so good, and I had such an incredible emotional shift from it and realization. I felt so good after. And so I came out of class, and this is still a little fresh, and I was like, I should call Ryan and tell him about it. And I stopped myself. Wait a minute. Ryan is no longer my person that I call about stuff like this. And I was like, oh, okay, well, who's my person? Like, like most of my girlfriends live in other time zones, just to make that clear. But like, who is my person that I can call and be like, oh, I just did the best vinyasa flow class. Right? Like, who is my person? And so I called my younger brother, who is going through a similar self-exploration, emotional, spiritual, mental growth journey in a self-aware and concerted way, I guess, because we're all on a journey. He and I just seem to be paying more attention to our journey and being more mindful about it, I guess, than most of the other people that I currently interact with. Because he and I are extremists. And so I called him and I was like, well, you're my person. And you've been elected. And the next morning, because he was already sleeping in bed because he's taking such incredible care of himself, and the next morning he was like, so who did I beat out to be your person? And I said, oh, no one. It was, it was like default, you're the only person that would care. And I want to stop right there. And I want you to think about what I just said. First of all, what I said to him in downplaying his importance to me, as well as what I said about myself, because no one else would care. And those words are poison. So if we're going to be thinking about words of affirmation in how you speak about yourself and how you speak to others, and he's Teflon, like, we were raised in a place where you showed weakness and it was immediately jumped upon. And so we still carry, that way of speaking. We grew up, in New York State, where you are tough or you're not, I guess. And it's a different culture, but it's not a culture that I want to bring forward. And so I immediately stopped myself and I said, no, I don't mean to say that, because he kind of laughed and he brushed it off. And I told him, no, you're the only person that's really going to understand what I'm going through at this point, because we're both meditating, we're both eating really clean, because before class I had salad, right? And then I was just dreaming about pizza. Oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to eat pizza, and I don't care that it's got conventional dairy and conventional wheat. I'm just going to eat that pizza. It's going to taste so good after that class. And after class, I felt so like clean and clear. I didn't even want to eat pizza, which is not like me at all. So I went home and I had a anti-inflammatory golden milk smoothie. It doesn't really like me at all. And so I was laughing with my brother about it. But he's the only person that would really understand what I'm going through at this point, or he's the best person. And so I want to use my words to build, not destroy. So words of affirmation. When you tell somebody, I love you, you're valuable to me, you are smart and you're wonderful and you're caring and you're all of these things, turn those around for yourself. Unfortunately for me, with my first marriage, I was valuing the wrong things. If you think back, like, what did I say? He's tall, handsome. He was a doctor. Those boxes got checked. I missed a whole bunch of boxes that could have been a lot more beneficial for me to check. Like, is he emotionally available? Is he loving? Is he caring? Like, he was definitely smart. He was definitely a lot of wonderful things, but not necessarily I was valuing things more than maybe were beneficial for me. And now I want to value the things that are loving, adventurous. And I have to reflect those things, right? Like, I take care of my body. Like, you are beautiful, you are loved, you are energetic, you are special. Like, looking in the mirror and really recognizing who you are and loving yourself for it. I am a huge fan of sticky notes all over the house. And I got shamed into not doing it anymore. And now I do it because they're good reminders. And I mix it up. I shift them around the house because you can get used to where they are and stop remembering certain things that you need to hear. What do you need to hear? What have you not heard enough? What do you want your loved ones, whether it's familial love or friend love or romantic love, what do you need to hear? Tell yourself. Heal those wounds yourself. And you won't need to reenact the bullshit of, whatever wounds you have from wherever they came from in your next relationship. You'll act out different ones, I guess. But let's get rid of the old ones. Like, you're worthy of love. This was an interesting one for me that I got out of therapy. This is another vulnerability, big share here of, my own process. And it's shifted for me, and I'm so grateful for it, because at one point in therapy, my therapist said to me that he thought that one of my issues was that I didn't believe that I was worthy of love. And this is interesting because I don't have a problem with, self-confidence, really. Like, I can sit here and talk to whoever on the internet, and I can get up and speak in front of people. I've got a very good sense of who I am professionally and personally, and yet self-esteem wise, right? That's different. That comes from childhood. That comes from inner wounds and whether they've been healed or not. And I think that in the 2-ish years since he said that to me, I've had an incredible change in my self-esteem as far as like what I believe that I'm worth and what I expect as far as treatment, and how I can now defend and love myself just as much as I would defend and love, my friends and family and loved ones. And so shifting that light towards myself, that power towards myself. But he said that he didn't think that I thought that I deserved love. And I think he was a little bit right. But what I realized when he said that, when I really sank in and questioned whether I agreed with him or not, or whether that resonated with me, I didn't believe, this is the last time I will ever say this, because I don't want it going forth in my experience. I didn't believe that men could be loving. Not necessarily that I didn't deserve to be loved. I just didn't believe that they were capable of it, because I'd never really seen it in a way that I could understand it. Or I hadn't seen it with a whole lot of frequency or vulnerability. And so the last year and a half, that's been being healed for me. And I have come into contact with men who are loving and love their wives and love their kids in a meaningful and deep way. And that's been really good for me to be able to see and also shift my belief and let that go. And I'm so grateful to be able to like hold up that mirror and see, what does that really mean? And so I think I might have gotten off track with my love languages a little bit, but I guess words of affirmation. I am deserving of love. I am loved. I am whatever it is. I am, in my worldview, the words I am are the most powerful words that you can use. And so use them wisely and put post-it notes about what you want to hear and how you want to be treated and what you deserve around the house to remind yourself. Do mantras and, put it into your meditation. And then service. Tonight, I'm going to be making myself one of my favorite dinners in a service to myself. After I do yoga later today, hot, my favorite. Yes, I already meditated this morning. Maybe I'll paint, do some, things that make my spirit sing. And as far as service, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to take my damn vitamins. And today, you know what I did for myself? I took the time to put on my fake eyelashes because I love them and they're such a pain to put on. But I love them anyway. It's silly little things. Make yourself laugh, right? Treat yourself. Parks and Rec is one of my favorite shows of all time. And I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I did in my ex-marriage because that's what we did. And that's part of what I let go. And think of all of the time, like if the average American watches like 6 hours of TV a day, that is a lot of freaking time. But Parks and Rec, not only did I fall in love with Chris Pratt, but you have treat yourself. And it's an interesting view on culture, right? As far as it's a day where you treat yourself. You go and you get massages, you get pedicures, you buy yourself fancy things, you treat yourself. But it's a comment on our culture because we do feed ourselves all of these things. As far as you deserve it. I see it on billboards. You deserve it, whether it's like plastic surgery or cupcakes or something that you deserve it. Buy it for yourself because you deserve it. But you have to really think, do you deserve to put yourself in debt about something that you will worry about in the future? Do you deserve unhealthy food that's going to make you feel like crap and feed your inflammation and your food sensitivities and give you a sugar high and then a sugar down where you're just going to crave more? And then you're going to eat your emotions or you're going to stuff them because you're unhappy? It's a perspective change. It's a perspective change. Treat yourself to actual self-care, not suppressing the things and the drives that are going to make you happy because of fear or social censure or what our culture tells us we should do. Shut off the TV, shut off your phones, read a book about something that makes you laugh or something that makes you happy, or go to sleep and feed your body that way, because almost all of us need more sleep. Treat yourself like gold. Treat yourself like how you want to be treated, and the world will reflect back what you show it you want and you deserve. And Dr. McCullough today, whom I love, maybe more than I love Chris Pratt. That's a toss-up. I don't know. Anyway, don't make me choose. I'd probably go with McCullough. I know that's really saying something. He shared something on Instagram today about self-love. And if you don't follow him on Instagram and you're curious about health and alternative health, you should do so, because he's just awesome and he's a great wealth of information. And he shared 4 things for self-care today. And I think it's important to share here, at the end of our process. So, self-acceptance. No one is perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I did a little video that I shared on the Bad Girls Guide Facebook page. It's had quite a few views, where I was in a bathing suit and I showed where all of my faults were. And then I rewound it and I reframed it into something positive. Because you can look at yourself and you can see your faults and you can have a rotten perspective of negativity and sadness. Or you can reframe things and look at it from a positive light. Remember, life is 10% what happens and 90% how you react to it. Reframe it and gain power over the things that maybe you don't necessarily like about yourself, or just don't pay attention to them. And pay attention to parts that you do love and you do appreciate. Avoid negativity from others. That's critical. Self-thought is the other, like, notice and change your inner critical voice and appreciate your capabilities and gifts. The inner critical voice that we have, that chatterbox, that monkey mind, is killing you slowly and insidiously, and it's draining all of the fun and the love out of your life, because it tells you that you can't, and it tells you that you shouldn't, and it tells you that you're not good enough, and you're not smart enough, and nobody likes you, and everything's going to go wrong, and there's reasons for fear, and it's never going to work, and you're never going to be. But stop. Recognize it, call it bullshit, and change it, because it's one of the most deeply powerful things you can do for the rest of your life. And it can come through meditation. This is one of the big things that Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches, as far as like how you can shut off that inner mantra and shift and remove. Also NLP. I'm going on an NLP quantum retreat. It's one of the things that I'm doing for myself and committing to my betterment, and how I can change how I speak and how I think in order to help others, but also help my own life to evolve and get better. And so get rid of that inner critical voice, change it into something positive, and appreciate your capabilities and your own gifts and who you are, because you are special. You are. And appreciate what it is that you have. And avoid negativity. The last shitty friend I had was in 2001, and I bid her goodbye. And now I have some of the best, most supportive, wonderful girlfriends in the world. I do not accept negativity from others. And I don't spend time with those who make me feel badly, or not make me, nobody makes me feel badly. I don't spend time around people who are negative, talking about negative things. I don't watch the negative news. I'm shifting everything into a positive place. And now this is where I guess I can sum up with, I hope that you love yourself a little bit more today. I hope that you do something beautiful for yourself. Treat yourself. Treat yourself. You can give yourself a foot rub, right? Like when we talk about self-love, right? Like, I'm a terrible masturbator. It's just something that I don't do, and that's okay. And so what am I good at? I'm good at foot rubs. And, I'll have an orgasm or two in my sleep when my body really needs it, because I've got magic like that. And I can hook up with young Frank Sinatra in my dreams, and I don't need to do it in real life. I'm waiting for the real thing in real life. So I don't know how inappropriate that is. Sorry, Mom. Anyway, those are good for you. It's a day of love. It can be an aspect of self-love, and I would be remiss not to include it. So you can also do, your yoga, your self-talk, get yourself a little gift. It doesn't have to be extravagant. Show yourself to love yourself. This has been Dr. Heather Dowen with the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well. And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at NaturopathiCMD for both. We're also on Twitter, and I'll see you next week. Happy Valentine's.
You've been listening to the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well. Join Dr.